Guys, let's raise a glass.
Yes.
To what? Back to each other.
To summer.
To all of us.
To us?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
to
To
us.
being back.
Oh, wait, Carson, I didn't get a tap.
To 1 foot
Tap
away.
that.
To being together.
Yes.
Cheers.
No mask. No mask. No mask.
I can hear you.
Oh, that's yummy.
Remember
Ow.
last summer?
Good choice.
You like the Aperol Spritz?
good.
This is a brilliant choice. I'm
It's
glad
summer,
I copied you.
Summer in a glass.
Summer in a glass.
I remember having too many
Reminds
roses.
me
Okay.
of- How about when they put our chairs so close together at work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember-
That was it.
I mean, that was a glaring moment.
Yeah.
We're all there every morning.
I knew things were better when I could sit on your lap.
Yeah.
By the way,
When they let us sit next to each other.
I've always said that.
we've been inching our chairs closer
We
together. I don't think we realized when we were spread that far apart how weird it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all of a sudden, once we started moving closer, we were like, "Look at us, we're on top of each other."
Right.
But then it's like nothing's
normal.
changed.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at the monitor and going, oh, wow.
So
This
close.
is the way it used to be.
Right.
We're close again.
But Carson, you were kind of
was-
nervous.
You were.
It was just fast. It was
Yeah.
like for so long you go giving that ATM space everywhere you go to people out of respect, and then all of a sudden we're just so close, and it took a minute for me to get used to it.
You were still wearing your mask on set.
Well, 'cause
longer
on
than-
The Voice, there's different rules still in society at various workplaces, and so The Voice has a different set of rules than the Today Show. That's
true.
So I was wearing a mask. I didn't.
Remember when we were all in the studio together? When we all finally got in the studio together? I thought that was one of those
Yes.
moments. I don't care how spread out we were.
It was the
Yeah.
week
It
before
was
Labor
cool.
Day.
Was that the week
I-
we
I-
finally?
Well, hold on. Let's back up. When we all first got together in the backyard,
Yes.
Yeah.
just seeing each other
Right.
was a win in
Yes.
that moment, right?
Physically.
Forget that we were 6 feet apart.
Right.
So to get to this point
Right.
is
Look
like
at us,
a
cozy
home
up.
run.
I know.
Right?
It was emotional when we all got together again. Sorry, Mom said don't talk.
No, that's okay.
It's okay.
That's all right.
We won't
No,
talk.
it was,
Came to the wrong place.
I'll tell you, outside the workspace, your daughter's wedding. And folks were sweating and dancing and singing and hugging.
everybody was vaccinated.
Yes.
And having you guys there was meant the world. And it was. We heard from more and more people. Hey, wow, what a great! It was like a coming out party.
It was.
You know, and it was really terrific. And I was happy to pay for it.
Was it expensive coming up?
Just
Well,
before that
okay.
wedding, the New York Islanders were in the playoffs, and they had just opened up their place. So I went to that game, and that was 21,000 people in the barn screaming at a big time sporting event. That felt like, oh my gosh, we are back.
I think it started to feel that way. I felt that way at the gymnastics trials. It was weird, man. You sat there, and I actually think a lot of the girls were a little nervous because of that.
Yeah.
They were so used to practicing in a vacuum, and suddenly they're in a stadium full of people. But it did feel like old times, and also just reminded you like what you're missing.
And over this last week, just spontaneously, people have been showing up at the windows.
Yes.
Yes.
And
More
lining-
people.
More people.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot
every
of
day.
people.
With signs,
and
like
going
the real
going
thing.
out and fist bumping people, and just it's like.
Well, the wedding we
taking
did that
pictures.
Hoda officiated the other day, that time we spent working on the plaza felt like the old days.
Yeah, that was the first time that we were actually interacting, standing outside.
You know, and that was the other thing.
What?
We came here last week with our family, and it was like it felt like no time had passed. We were here.
Here at
Anthony was
Stratos?
helping us. The place was packed. Everybody was having a good time. It felt so good.
Let me ask you.
Walking into a store and not having to wear a mask, I almost feel guilty. Like I say, should I wear a mask? And they
Right.
say, well, if you're vaccinated, you don't have
You
to.
don't
And
have
I'm
to.
like, I'm vaccinated.
Right.
I'll just wear my mask anyway.
Right.
I just don't. I can't. It's hard to make
hard.
that transition. It's not like turning off the
Right.
light.
I agree.
That's
Takes
what-
some-
yeah. I mean, you had yours on today.
Yeah, I'm just still trained, and I we've all worn our masks for so long out of respect for other people.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I don't want to walk in a place all of a sudden without a mask with this bravado of like, I'm double vaxxed and I'm the man and I'm out of respect for somebody else. You know, it's hard to break that.
So one of the other big changes, and we were thinking about this. I remember we were talking about a year ago from right now, when literally there was occasionally a nurse walking by. That's all you saw outside.
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
was
not
it.
even
Or
not
construction
even
worker.
that was
That was
it.
it.
There was nobody else.
There was a time when it was just you and our camera operator Mason, and no one else. In the
Right.
studio.
Nobody was there. And then you fast forward to like that kind of eerie, weird feeling of, and my first words I think I ever uttered every morning were the two of us. That was the first conversation you ever had was that one. But fast forward to now, you guys, we look outside.
Yeah.
Coldplay was on the plaza. We had her on the plaza. We're going to have more people on the plaza.
Tourists are walking by.
Tourists are walking
That's
by.
what I got. All of a sudden, looking out while you guys are doing the news and stuff, and looking out and seeing people just strolling on 50th Street.
Without masks often.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think we'll take these things for granted anymore. Seeing people who come to the plaza, or having music out there, or even the people that we work with. When they started adding back our camera operators, the sound guys, the floor directors,
and hair.
the props folks. Yeah, hair and makeup. Let's just light a candle.
Some of us
Raise
don't
a
want
glass.
to-
Hoda, hair and makeup.
Hair and makeup.
And everybody said amen.
Amen.
When are they going to bring the teleprompter back to the studio? That's the most important thing.
Jenny is back.
Yeah, she's back.
Okay,
She's in
okay.
the studio.
That's why
back.
Pop Star was
The
so
other thing that
smooth.
was so amazing to me was how quickly you forgot how quickly it went away. I mean, like you and I were the first ones out, and all of a
right,
sudden-
right,
and all-
right.
It was like, wait, what?
Right, lights out.
Okay, 2 weeks. Oh no, wait, not so fast. But it was amazing how quickly it all shut down.
Yeah.
It's taking a little while to come back, but it's worth it.
It was also amazing how quickly everyone adjusted. Like in terms of our workplace, folks like the crews, like setting up those home studios,
technical
and,
staff.
like without really, didn't miss a beat at all.
I remember after 9/11 when I was at MTV in Midtown, we were contemplating, are we going to do another show the next day? And quickly it was decided we couldn't because the bridges and tunnels were closed. And we couldn't get a crew to Times Square. We couldn't get a camera guy. Wow. And during this pandemic, NBC News was incredible how quickly we were up running, because people need information. And in our business, no matter what's happening in the world at any cost, there are those outside of the people that you see on TV that truly make it happen.
I mean, it was pretty shocking. And I think, you could argue that we got a lot more interviews, a lot of people who wouldn't have normally been on this show because we could get them through Zoom. And all of a sudden you realize that you can have good conversations with people all across the country quickly without flying them in, without all those things. But
That was actually one of my most favorite parts of the pandemic. Like Hugh Jackman's like, oh wow, he lives like us.
yeah.
Behind him.
Oh yeah.
The backgrounds were a big, that
Oh
was
yeah,
a
everybody
fun
has
part of
Zoom
the day.
rooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
People looking. Oh, look, what's there? Room Raider was that?
Room Raider, or how about the ring light that makes your wrinkles disappear? Like do you put
I
that ring
discovered that
light
way
over?
too late in the pandemic.
See, but the
I just got one last week. I'm so
I
mad.
like a
but
month
if you
ago.
wear
I was like, where's this
glasses-
God light
I
been
know,
my whole
where
life?
has it been? Oh.
I love, but that is the one part because I'm an AV nerd and I loved playing, and every day we had stuff coming in from B&H from different audio visual places. Like, look at this!
loved that.
I loved it. Okay, I got a 60-inch monitor. I
You
got
were one
this.
of the
I
first
got that.
ones, Al, who had it going on. I mean, you literally had
was
all
in-
your
he was in his
gadgets
garage. Remember
in your garage. You had an iPad. You had
Then he got
all
kicked out of the garage.
gadgets.
Yeah.
Then he was in the kitchen. He got
Right.
kicked out of the kitchen.
I was pleased when you stopped wearing the Oswego shirts every day though, because for a while.
I think Deborah.
Yeah, well, Deborah, between Deborah and Craig, it was like,
Yeah.
you got to step this up.
Yeah,
It's-
and then you went to the zippy hoodie,
Yeah.
the zippy thing, and then you
I went to the half
graduated.
zip.
Half zip.
Went to the half zip.
and then you
Went to
graduated.
the half zip.
Yeah.
But now we get to see you in seersucker full pocket square.
Glasses.
with the-
You know what
the
I do
pocket
miss?
watch.
Every
You know what I
day
do
is
miss?
What?
I do miss seeing Vale and Charlie.
Oh,
That I have to say, watching them pop up, literally, it was like so calming, and it felt so at home. I still remember just like watching
Calming
them.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Defense Secretary. Out of here.
Right.
I don't know how you pulled that off, but even just at that 6:30 tease, they all were clamoring to get on, and I remember thinking how that's like the coolest, calmest
Little
thing in the
kids
world.
with bedhead.
Don't forget about her live-in tech as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Feldy.
yeah, Feldy.
Feldy
the
was
Feldy.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like,
Feldy.
he
It was
really-
on
yeah.
headset.
My-
Her operations manager.
You and my husband could be like in a relationship
Yeah.
because of the AV. Like
Yes.
he loved that tech stuff so much. It made all his dreams come true. He would dial in every morning, set his alarm, and
I
get us
remember
ready.
listening. You were doing. There was some problem with the mic, and he's troubleshooting.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
He
I'd never
into it.
seen.
Oh, he's so into it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the graphics department.
Jack.
No,
Jack.
Jack Daly.
Jack
needs-
Daly.
Jack had a little more.
Jack
props.
needs an agent. I mean, we get stopped now, and
What?
people are like, "Yo, you're the kid that holds the sign." Like
Are you
the
serious?
People just
They
and it's
recognize
that-
the arms.
That started out of a necessity. Yeah, he's like, "Look, it's me. That's me." It started out of necessity because once Field Ops came and put the studio in the house, I actually needed help.
Yeah.
'Cause, we have a newborn in the house with 4 children.
Yeah.
So I was, commissioning help from my children, and Jackson did it every single
How
day.
did it feel, Carson, when you came back to the studio?
It felt great.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I started to harbor a little bit of guilt. I mean, I love my kids so much. I thought and I felt bad because it came at the cost of a pandemic where people losing their lives.
Sure.
But I was so selfishly happy to be home with my kids
Yeah.
because I travel so much and I
Yeah.
never get a chance to see them. I thought, God, I
Yeah.
can work from home.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm done at 9:01,
Yeah.
I'm in my
Yeah.
bathing suit already and my nice supper, and I'm going to
Yeah.
play with the kids. And
Yeah.
I loved that part. But after a while, the professional in me wanted to be in a studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't move to New York to stay at home and work from home.
Right,
I moved to be
right.
with my colleagues, to be in the environment
Yeah.
that excites me and that we're lucky enough to get to do every day. So going back to see you guys and going back to doing the job was really important.
Yeah.
It was fulfilling again. Being home's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Only for a finite amount of
yeah.
time.
How are your kids? How did Dell and Sibby do?
Dell and Sibby, again, from the very beginning, I was so impressed with how quickly they adapted,
Yeah.
and they've done the same on the back end. Like they've,
Yeah.
you know.
Plus, your wife was a superstar.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
wife
She gets
was
props. big
Lindsay was
Those jokes
amazing.
every day online.
still
were-
going.
Still
Oh,
going.
they are?
The prayer section.
The prayer section every morning to start school. No, she was. We would not have probably gotten through the pandemic had it not been for my wife.
Well,
That's not, that's not
Yeah.
hyperbole.
And she got COVID, right?
She did. She
Yeah.
she had
You go
COVID.
through that too.
And let me tell you, like we took it, we obviously took it very seriously. So we had to sequester her in the room, and it was me and the kids for 2 weeks.
Siri got a false positive during this whole thing, and for 24 hours until it came back and they had reversed it, it went to a lab, it was a whole thing. There was a period where I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
She's sequestered in a room, and I have all 4 kids. Like, how do I do this?
right.
And then you're immediately a close contact.
Yes.
Just by vis-a-vis
Right.
your wife.
Yes.
So technically, you're not supposed to be. Like, I was on the phone with the doctor. Who's going to raise my children?
You want to come over?
Let's bring some wolves
How you
over.
did that.
Yeah.
Grace of God.
Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton.
Well,
you go.
Lindsay was parenting by phone too.
Yeah.
Like she was able to FaceTime and tell the kids to not do stuff. So. No, the kids have adapted well. How about yours?
Same. Like, it's just so funny now how they look back at pictures and wonder why we didn't have a mask on before. And we still worry about our kids. They're not vaccinated. They're little and they're running around. But to see them in school with the plexiglass and the doing the tasks, and they did it every day. They were in the park with masks on. I was shocked. Hope was too little to wear a mask, which kind of made me feel good because I didn't want to have her all strapped up. But Haley got so used to it. Now we leave and she's like, Mom, do you have your phone? Do you have a mask?
Right.
That's what they
Mine
say.
too.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
So
incredible how they roll
adapt.
with it. They get used to the mask. The day the CDC said, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear the mask
Yeah.
outdoors, I picked up Vale at the bus stop with no mask. She comes down the bus stops with her mask and she's like, Mom, where's your mask?
Yeah.
Put it on. She's like,
Yeah.
she's got a job at the CDC waiting.
There you go.
But it's just like they roll with it. They adapt to
Yeah.
it.
I felt guilty almost in a way for all of you guys in that I just had Nick at home.
Yeah.
And the time was 18, and he was loving it because he'd take his laptop and I said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm changing class." And he was going from room to room.
Oh, that's what he did to get with
what he did. But it was great. I was like, after I finished the show, I would call Craig. I'm out on the lake. I'm sitting by a pool.
Living his best life.
It was.
Well, did Nick adapt to the
yeah.
mask and the rest of
Well,
it?
what was interesting is, especially for kids who have some special needs, in a way, this was somewhat helpful because a lot of these kids are not overly social. And so they could be social over Zoom, over their computer. And I was, I had to take him with me on a trip, and he was in school in the car, and I'm listening to him, how engaged he was
Wow.
with his teacher, with his classmates, and he really adapted.
thrived.
He loved it. He ended up with an A average for the year.
Did he really?
Wow, good for him.
We're moving, and day before yesterday, we were going through some papers, and at the beginning of the pandemic, it was suggested that you have kids write letters to, sort of cope with how they're feeling, and Dell wrote a letter, and he said, I forget who it was to, but it said, "Dear blah, 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 please make the pandemic go away. Please have people stop dying. Please have people stop getting sick." And we were moving, and Lindsay and I read the letter, because we hadn't seen it since, and just, puddles. Because we've started to forget just a year ago, like how scary it was for kids especially.
Well, I think that NBC did that nightly news for kids.
Yes.
That Lester did, and it was really sort of born out of the idea that the information is so hard for kids to process that they would give a show for them coming from NBC. And Jackson, was a correspondent
My
for
favorite
the
correspondent,
year.
by the way.
And that was really, I think, was really cool. And he had a project where he had to write a letter, and he wrote a letter to President Biden, and Biden wrote him back.
What?
Right.
Wow.
What was the letter?
The letter was about, and he wrote it, and
Yeah.
then we sent it. He put it in mailbox, and then President Biden wrote him back just after being elected. And Jackson had written about, requesting some help with racial injustice and with mask wearing for the pandemic, and it was really incredible. So in our house, we had this letter that Jackson wrote and the response from the president.
That's amazing.
Jackson spoke at commencement, you know.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he graduated and
he spoke?
He spoke.
He
Yeah.
was a
What did
speaker.
he say? What did he say?
He just talked about thanking the administrators. I mean, one of the things during school Zoom that stuck out for me was a lot of our teachers, they have kids our kids'
Yeah.
age.
Yep.
And as hard as we found it, I kept saying to Siri, I'm like, look, we have to just put this in check. Think about this teacher.
Yes.
She's got this situation in her home, and she's teaching all. So let's, shout out to the not only first responders, but to the teachers.
Who are first responders?
He basically was thanking the administrators for making a year even possible.
Jackson does. He needs an agent.
Yeah, Jackson's
that's
so
amazing.
mature.
No, it's.
Sign him.
Sign him up.
Yeah.
I think we got lucky that the pandemic, by and large, the kids in this country did pretty well, or globally actually did pretty well. If you think about had this COVID-19 strain been really rough on children, this really would have been a lot worse.
Story, yeah.
But emotionally, I think.
Edit that out, Jen. That's too.
Yeah, a lot of them are struggling, but they're hopefully coming back.
Yeah, they're doing good though.
I've got one that just came to mind.
Tell us.
When we went down a few months ago to North Charleston to profile this principal who during the pandemic decided that he was going to pick up a second job at
That was
Walmart.
amazing, that story, by the way.
Oh, I love that guy.
That guy was incredible.
Well, he's Mr. Darby, and was one of these guys, could not have been more unassuming, and he was like, oh shucks, why are you guys here? I took this job because my kids at the school, they just needed school supplies, and the parents, a lot of them had got laid off, and the guy just stepped up, and even when we went to talk to him, like he was just so surprised that we were there. Like it was just so. It's like this is what I do. This is what we do. Yeah. We take care of each other. That was probably a highlight. And I think it was probably more of a highlight because we had spent so many months covering death and despair.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Your gym. I mean, the time that I felt like the other day when you were hanging out with the gymnast, I was like, we're back, baby.
I did love that. I mean, that did make me feel like we were back 100% because, I felt it. But probably overall, like if I were thinking back, there was one guy who was a patient, and he decided that he was going to write a letter to every single person who helped him in his
Oh, that was good too.
and he read it, and we surprised him by having all the
those people there.
pop on. But I think because once you get out, you think I dodged a bullet, and you go home. Think about any time you've been in the hospital for something.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you revisit and you say thank you? But to be able to do it face to face and to watch, a lot of these doctors and nurses were crying because they needed that attaboy, that attagirl. And I remember thinking a thank you, a little thing like a thank you meant a lot, as you know, because that's what you do.
Well, look,
what does.
I got to go to one of the food banks in Connecticut, and it reminded you that how close people are living to the edge, because there were a lot of nice cars driving up, but people, when it comes down to it, needed help. But if it wasn't for those volunteers who run these food banks, a lot of folks would have gone hungry. And seeing people it was the dead of winter. It was freezing and cold, and people were out with kids in the car. And these folks who were they had an assembly line going, getting food into people's cars. And that was kind of like, it restores your faith in humanity.
SG, what do you?
I mean, it's sad, but I can't get out of my mind the doctor who was a frontline worker and an emergency room physician and had the whole world. She had everything in front of her, and she took her own life, because the stress of the pandemic. And it's a sad story, but it's also a story that really inspires, because her sister and her brother-in-law have picked up her story, and they are doing incredible work to focus attention on the mental health of frontline workers. And that needs to be said. That work needs to be done. And so they have taken this painful episode, and it has galvanized them, and they are really making a difference. And I think, we look at it, okay, the pandemic, let's hope, is in our past in this country, mostly. We've got to remember our frontline workers, and some of those pains and some of those memories are going to be with them a long time, so we need to remember them. And that, for me, that story and that cause has stuck with me.
Carson, you spent a lot of time over the past year highlighting,
mental health.
Yeah, I think mental health took a became a prominent part of a discussion of society in the last year during the pandemic, which was a good thing because nobody's talking about it, and I was able to do that through my own situation. But I think going back to what Savannah was saying, also for me back March, we were having a baby. And part of my anxiety, in general, my anxiety disorder, is that I can't control my nervous system. I run hot, like my adrenal system kind of like a Ferrari. And so I spend every day of my life trying to check and balance how I'm going to drive that Ferrari, you know, and sometimes it's easier to control than others. At the height of the pandemic and then expecting to have a baby, my nerves were just exacerbated, as were so many millions of people going through similar situations. So, you know, seeing the nurses in the hospital, you know, dropping my wife off alone, pregnant, with masks on, and we were so scared we didn't know what was what you could touch. This was new in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then meeting the nurses when Goldie was born and realizing that these people, I want to go and retreat and hide in my home because I'm so nervous because I have this mental health situation. I want to hide like a little boy, yet there are people in society who, like firefighters, don't run away from the fire, they run into it. And we were, you know, sort of, we got a chance to re-meet these incredible heroic folks, you know, in the health sector, who went in and saved people's lives and then had to act like their fathers or their brothers or their sisters and hold their hands. They had to do so much work behind closed doors. I think even today we don't realize what the nurses and doctors really did. Because no one was allowed in the hospital. I think by having a baby through that process, I had that window into the healthcare system, and it was just remarkable.
Celebration.
Oh, yes.
Celebration.
The roaring 20s, baby.
Yes.
Your mom is back.
Yes.
Your Tita.
Yes.
You know, your in-laws and
my parents.
all your folks. You know, and by the way, God bless you for shining a light on alcoholism and addiction with your dad with the book. It's just, I mean, I think everybody's coming out and just feeling good. Like, we've come through something, and we're still going through it. But by God, you know, thanks to a whole lot of people, we're able to live like America.
Yeah, I mean, talk about appreciating things you never even thought twice about in your life.
Right.
Like walking to the store with your kid without a mask on, or going to the beach, or getting in the car, getting on a plane, like stuff.
Going to the grocery store.
Like this.
With your having a meal out.
Meal out.
Yeah.
Being able to close talk.
Yeah.
And hug.
Needing breath mints again.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm my stock in Altoids. It's got to go up.
Suddenly.
I did you know, we do these things before the show where we talk to our different stations, and I knew Hoda and I were going to be doing something. I actually used mouthwash.
Oh, thank God. Thank
Hoda went,
God.
wow, you smell minty fresh.
Minty fresh.
Kind of makes you wonder what he'd been doing for the previous
Well, you know,
We all let ourselves go.
Yes.
just a bit.
But we're back, baby.
We're back.
Cheers to being back.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I've got nothing left.
And to the
Once
discovery
again,
of the Aperol Spritz.
I drank the most.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.